What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Prayin and Slayin Podcast. My name's Aaron, your host, and today we have an awesome episode to hear a really cool story about a huge Colorado whitetail that got taken by Mr. Colton Talton, who's got the YouTube channel Final Ascent Media. So we're really excited to learn about Colton, his background, his upbringing, what he does now, Final Ascent Media, and hear this story and wait till you guys see it. It'll be a pictures on the Lights for Outdoors social media that we'll post for it. But man, this is a cool buck. I didn't even know they had bucks like this in Colorado. So excited to hear from Colton. So let's jump in with Colton Talton from Final Ascent Media.
For those who don't know me, my name's Colton. I've been archery hunting, not only hunting, but archery hunting since I was 6 years old. The archery aspect, it actually came from my grandpa, Gary Campbell. He had a lot of ties through PSE Archery at that time with Pete Shepley when he owned it. And so he was always getting me bows and getting me into it. And I remember I actually have it in my closet. It's a bow fishing bow now, but my very first compound bow was it was just a little Browning something. I don't even know, but I use it to bow fish with now, but that was my first bow. And, I did a lot of rabbit shooting, a lot of target shooting, following my dad around in the mountains. So as far as the archery aspect of my lifetime, that started with my grandpa. And then as far as hunting goes, if it wasn't for my dad, I don't know. I think I would still be a legit Western hunter. Because I do a lot of spot and stock. That's my cup of tea, is the Western hunting. But there's public land, there's a lot of stuff I could do, but if it wasn't for my dad and all of his hard work, and he was actually a guide full time when he first started, like his early stage of the 20s all the way through 30s and a little bit of his early 40s, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not wrong. But if it wasn't for him being in the hunting industry and loving it just as much as I do, and having some of the properties that I've shot some of these big deer on, and I don't know where I'd be today, honestly. I mean, everyone could go on public land, and shoot a doe or a smaller buck and smaller bull, which, I mean, I don't know if you can see it. This camera's going to follow me, but I have like a little 276 by 6 bull behind me, and there's nothing wrong with shooting small animals, and everyone even can get noticed from doing that. But we really like to age class animals, and it took me a long time to put that through my head, because the first thing that came walking by me when my dad was sitting with me, I was like, Dad, I want to shoot him. And he's like, we're not shooting that one. But no, I mean, the aging, the hunting, knowledge about spotting and stalking, knowing your wind, and just everything I've learned up till today was because of my dad, and the archery was because of my grandpa. So that's kind of how Colton started. And now, just like anyone, whether you were 6 years old or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40, once someone not only archery hunts, rifle hunt, muzzleloader, whatever you want to do, it's an addiction that's unexplainable to the person who doesn't know it. Like, everyone always asks, like, well, why do you hunt? Well, I give a million reasons on why I hunt, but it's unexplainable. You can't explain the feeling to them when you shoot something, or the excitement, or the memories. It don't make sense to people. It's something you got to actually do. And that's the main reason why I love hunting and why I'm so addicted to it, is because of just everything that comes with it. Yes, it's very cool shooting a 190-inch mule deer, 170-inch whitetail, or going and finding that 340 bull. But when it's all said and done, whether you shoot something or not, everyone always walks away smiling, just because of everything that happened up until that point. And so,
yeah, man, it's hard to have a bad day out in the field, that's for sure. And like you said,
yeah.
It's something I like that you brought that up too, because that's a lot of people get asked, and and then especially if you're on social media in the hunting community, it's always who can out obsession the next guy, and this and that. There's definitely an element to it. It's kind of an all consuming thing. If you've just got that fire in you, you can't really put it out. It's something you
No.
can't feel other than getting out there and getting in nature and chasing things and watching things interact, and how everything always has its own way of playing out every time, and putting the puzzle pieces together. It's just there's so much to it, but you're the first person I think I've ever heard actually say it. It's kind of an unexplainable thing, and I totally agree. It really is. There's no one answer. Um, but yeah, if it's hardwired in you, and whatever that start is, sounds like for you it was your grandpa, which I love, because that was first same thing here was with my grandpa's, especially the archery side too, and a Browning bow. Ironically
Yeah.
enough, he had an old Browning bow hanging in the rafters of one of his hog sheds, and a deer rack hanging up there, and I always thought that was the coolest thing. And when we got old enough to ask, I guess, we got the bow down one day and bought some El Cheapo aluminum arrows from Walmart and started
Yep.
slinging at cardboard boxes stuff with old shirts grandma was done with. And that was it, man. But yeah, that's so cool. And then your dad is so I'm assuming that your grandpa and then your dad grew up a hunter too. So was your grandpa as like, I'm gonna say the word hard. It's probably not hard, but like as fine tuned or really tune into your dad about shooting an age class animal just like he taught to you, or was that something maybe he learned on his own?
Yeah, so let me specify a little bit too. So my grandpa that got me into archery hunting, that's actually my mom's dad.
Oh, okay.
And then beings you asked that question about fine tuning, and was he just as strict about age class and stuff too? My grandpa was. If I wish I could just walk you down in my grandpa's basement right now and just see all the whitetails lined up on the wall. I mean, he's got a 200-inch Iowa deer up there. There's giant Colorado deer. There's Kansas deer, and um, I'm sure he'll tell you he's probably shot the first things that walked under a stand before too. I mean, who hasn't? Everyone's done it.
Yeah.
It's just it's more of a thing that you end up doing when you realize, all right, a lot of these people are starting to shoot bigger deer. Their age class anymore. You listen to Lee Latosky talk all the time. Like, he don't shoot a deer unless it's 6 years old or older, and
Yeah.
that's how you get big deer right there. But my grandpa, so his dad is who got him into archery hunting. My grandpa tells me all the time, every time I send him pictures of something I kill, he says, Colton, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for carrying on the tradition, because his grandpa was also an archery hunter, but he did traditional archery. Obviously, there was no compound bows back then. There was no 90% let off shooting 100 yards. Like, you couldn't do that. It was strictly traditional, make your own arrows. Maybe they made their own tips at that point in time too. I know a lot of people that did, or they were starting to get into some broadheads. But I know his dad pretty much made everything that he shot. As far as my dad goes, his dad, that was my grandpa Don. He actually passed away. I think it's been 3 or 4 years now. He was also very, very big hunting, and that's definitely where my dad came into the hunting industry, was because of my grandpa. And everyone knew him. He had a sportsman shop in old Pueblo, Colorado, and everyone that I talked to that I haven't necessarily met that knows my family was like, oh, I know your grandpa Don. I used to go into his sports shop all the time. And
That's
but
awesome.
he's been in some magazines before. He shot a lot of really big sheep. He did a lot of the pack-in trips. Um, and so that's definitely where the hunting came from as far as my dad goes. Age class, I think my dad started the age class thing more on his own. If my grandpa were still here, he would probably tell you, Colton, you're dumb for passing up that little 250 6x6 bull that walked by you. Um, but like I said, everyone has their own opinion on things. I passed up a lot of bulls this year because I'm specifically chasing a really big mature bull, and all I hunt on in Colorado at least is public land for elk. I don't have any kind of private land out here to hunt. Um,
Hmm.
but it's just one of those things where you've shot so many of them, or you don't necessarily need the extra meat. That's this year I was definitely trophy hunting for a bull, and I passed up a lot of bulls because of it. People are like, dude, I don't know how you pass that bull up, and it's like I'm looking for that one. Um,
Yep.
but my dad's definitely a trophy hunter. He's killed a lot of animals in his life. but the older he's getting, it actually frustrates me a lot because we'll have big bucks on camera or we'll see big bulls walk around or big deer. And I'm like, Dad, please go shoot that thing. You haven't shot a deer or an elk in I don't know how long. And he won't go do it because it's not bigger than something he shot before.
Yep.
Just like you said, you didn't know there's that big of whitetails in Colorado. Well, that buck I just shot 5 years ago, he shot 198-inch, typical 10-point, no extras, just a mainframe 10-point whitetail out of the same exact stand.
Wow.
And that right there tells me that's why he's so picky. He shot almost a 200-inch typical deer. Now I know why he don't want to just go shoot a 160-inch deer just because it's 5 or 6 years old. He really wants to, find something that's got the inches and the age class just because he's done it before. You don't need to just keep shooting just to shoot,
Yeah, for sure. And I can see, especially you get something that's like, everybody's got their biggest deer, whether it's a 110-inch buck or it's a, 198, like you just said. And it's, I think for some people, they're chasing that next inch or that next biggest thing. And I think for me, you hit it on the head. You said when you got enough meat in your freezer, that also changes things. So I've never been a guy that like, I'll always try to get the biggest animal I can, but I'm also like an opportunist. Like grew up that way. Just I got myself kind of into hunting. Like I said, through my grandpa kind of inspired it. But really, I'm kind of the only what I'd say the absolute hunter in my family that I know. And anyway, so I got into it myself, and it was a lot of kind of teaching and learning as you go. So a lot of it was just the experience, like you said, just getting out in the field and doing it, and then the opportunity presents itself, taking advantage of it. And then never wanting a tag to go unfilled because I spent money on that tag that I worked hard for, and I'm like, I'm gonna put it. Then I got into processing myself. My first deer ever with a bow, I took it to a meat processor. $115 later, I had like 35 pounds of meat, and I'm like, I think I can do that myself and save some money next time, And so ever since then, I got into the processing piece, and now it's as much of it, like you said, it's kind of all intermingled in this weird just love for the stuff, but like the biggest piece of it, like I look forward to processing my own animal as much as I look forward to going to the hunt and having that pride of knowing what's in my freezer and feeding my family with it. And I got little kids now, so it's like that's part of it too. And he loves watching me do hunting stuff. And so anyway, but then in Montana, that was like the first time ever in my life that I had buck tags in my pocket that sat in my pocket for the season because I had enough. You could always get doe tags for another region and go explore this other area, so I could fill the freezer with does. That was my meat mission. And then I'd get out there and it's like, okay, I'll wait till I see a good buck. And then every year it was the same thing. I wanted to get a mule deer, shot a small one the first year. Next year, though, it's got to be a little bigger. I'm not going to shoot another small one. And then the one I did was, I would have probably normally passed him. It was last day of season and he turned his head just right and he had double drop tines, like just little half-inch drop tines going off each antler. And I'm like, oh, that deer's going down. But then my last year there, I shot I think it was a 156, just he popped out chasing the doe, and I'm like, oh, that deer, if that's big enough, like let's go, So, but the opportunity is still. So I haven't had the opportunity as a hunter yet to lock in on a property or lock in on a spot that I can watch long enough. And we're a military family too, so we bounce from. We just found out where we're going here in the next by next July we'll be moving again to another state. So it's like one of those deals too. You got to take advantage of what you have when you have it, but. Yeah, I love that. If you have the opportunity, like I said, it does grow on you if you allow it to get to that point where you're like, okay, I want to do better next time. I want to get a bigger deer next time. I want to get an older deer next time. And here in Texas, I've got a guy that one of my buddies manages a ranch out here, and it was kind of cool just watching him. I got to go out to help take some exotics. I had two options for exotics that I went out for him on. We didn't end up getting a shot at anything, but sitting there watching him watch these whitetail come out. It was just the way that guy could just look at a deer and be like, that's probably old enough or that's not. And I'm like, what are you looking at that's telling you that? And he's going through all these little fine details because they all got big racks, I'm like, but he'd look at one that's like a monster and he's like, no, that one needs at least 2 more years probably. And another one comes out that's beside it, looks relatively similar. He's like, no, that one's probably a shooter. And, here's why. And it's pretty incredible. You watch them long enough. And like you said, the guys they're looking for age. They don't, antlers are antlers. Guys will come in and pay for that, but at the end of the day, they're not going to let you shoot it regardless of antler size until it meets a certain age criteria. So it's kind of fun to see that. And then in your case, like I'm assuming you had the before picture and after picture. Did you watch this deer grow all 4 years? Like know where he was, or was it like, oh, he showed up again this year kind of thing?
Yeah. So that place where I shot him, that's another lease that me and my dad have. And it is like, when I say this, you're going to look at me like, oh, wow. I bet you that little lease we have is no more than 20 or 30 acres. That's
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
So we
That's
have
awesome.
we have neighbors on our north side and we got neighbors on our south side. And what it is this place sits down in a canyon. So there's a lot of cedars, there's a lot of cactus, a lot of overgrown tamarack, because it sits right next to a river. Um, so what these bucks do, and does too, is they have a feeding area to the south, or they have a place to the north where they like to go. And we sit right in between where everything likes to come in and settle down or chase something during the rut, through there. There's a main trail that walks right through this place. And so we had a tree stand set up there and we started running cameras. And my dad actually said he was very jealous of me because when he shot his big buck, we had to go down there almost, I think we went down there like every 3 or 4 days, maybe, to check cameras because he didn't really necessarily know about the cellular stuff at that time. Didn't really know how it worked. And that's when they're like everything was kind of starting to come out with cellular. And so there's one bar of service down there. And the reason he was jealous is because this place is 2.5 hours from us. And
Oh
so
wow.
it's
Yeah.
it's a trip just to go down there and check stuff and make it all worth it. And so I had a bunch of Moultrie cameras and I set it up, and there was one bar of service which was enough to get me pictures sent. And so all these pictures are coming through and I'm telling my dad about it. He goes, "How are you checking this every day?" I was like, "Well, I set up a cellular camera." He goes, "That's a bunch of BS." I had to go check cameras almost every single day, and you're out there just on your phone watching them come in. But as far as watching him grow up, I have that picture of him in 2021. He was maybe 100. If I had to guess, he's like low 140s is what I'm going to say. But he was a 4-year-old. He's barely a 4-year-old. Um, we typically try not to hunt that place every single year. We try to hunt it either every other year or sometimes every 2 years, just because it's so small. There's plenty of deer, but we don't want to pressure it too much because it's so small. We want to make sure genetics are getting passed around, deer are coming to age. But so I had pictures of him. So the first picture I had him was 2021. We'll say he was 140-inch 10-point, 4 years old. I had pictures of him again 2 years later, which would have made him a 6-year-old. And I do not have these pictures because they were on my old phone, and I just didn't get the pictures transferred, of course. But just to tell you, the reason we didn't shoot him that year is because you could see as a 6-year-old, he was starting to develop his G5s. He was starting to come up with his forks, those G5s on the fronts. And so we kind of just sat there and watched. And it's like, as a 6-year-old, Colorado whitetail deer, they have more than enough grass down on that. It's, I want to say river bottom, but it's more prairie ground too, because it goes from prairie to river pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still think this buck will have one more year to grow. And so we decided not to shoot him. And at that time, he was probably pushing high 160s, low 170s. So obviously the next year we didn't hunt when he would have been a 7-year-old. So we didn't have any cameras up. We didn't watch or nothing. So this year we figured him that 8+ range, 8+ years old. And he was literally one of the first bucks on camera as soon as I got those cameras set up. And I looked at him and I was just like, oh my gosh. And not just because of his horns, but his body size. This deer weighed 320 pounds.
So cool.
I've shot 5 and 6-year-old mule deer that weighed less than this whitetail. And his neck was 31.5 inches round with his cape on. A lot of times when you're aging whitetails, you'll know they become of age because you can see it in their face, you can see it in their body, their stomach starts to droop down. But the main thing is that little piece of skin that sits underneath their chin. You know, when they're a younger buck, it stays nice and tight. It's just a younger buck thing. And then as they start to get older, it starts to droop down, and you can see it in this deer. His skin underneath his chin was really starting to droop down. I was like, oh my gosh, he's put some age on. And so he's an 8+ year old deer. And I knew he was big, but I didn't know he was that big until we measured him. I told my dad, I said, Cyclone's back, and he's got to be every bit of high 160s, low 170s. And so just to kind of get into the story while we're talking about it, I went and got stuff set up in that tree stand. That tree stand stays standing year round. We just got to put straps on it. Strapped it down. I had my camera arm set up, and this is about, I want to say, the last couple of weeks of October. So season started, but they haven't really started rutting yet. They haven't really started daylighting. He's mainly coming in at the nighttime. So then here in Colorado, when rifle season starts, we can't keep hunting like you can in some states, where some states rifle season starts, you can keep archery hunting, but you got to wear orange or, you know, whatever. In Colorado, when rifle season starts in this area, you can't archery hunt. It's strictly rifle season.
Like a safety thing, or?
Yeah, I want to say safety, but it depends on the area too. So they have our type A, B, and C tags. So this is an Eastern tag, so everything out there's type either B or C. And so when my archery tag goes all the way through December 31st, but when rifle starts, we can't hunt for that. I think it's like 5 or 6 days they have for that first rifle, and then archery starts again, then second rifle, then archery, then third rifle. Once third rifle's over, we can hunt, which third rifle just started today, actually. We can hunt all the way to December 31st without any other interruptions. So that first part of November comes, temperatures are starting to cool down. They're definitely starting to rut, because I'm watching him on camera and he's starting to chase some does around. And but rifle season starts, and of course that first day of rifle he daylights. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So now it becomes that stressful time where you're like, please just don't get shot, just take that girl somewhere and go hide. And thankfully that's what ended up happening. I didn't see him for almost 2 weeks. Rifle season ends, archery season started. He still wasn't on camera, but I went down there and sat in that stand anyways, just in case I could see something that the camera wasn't. There's definitely some rut activity. There's some bucks chasing does out in front of me, really thick. I couldn't really see anything. But I pretty much sat there till 11 or 12 o'clock that day, and it just got super warm and the temperatures weren't quite there yet. And I knew they were rutting, but I knew my next game plan was just watching the weather. And so sure enough, when I was sitting in that stand, it was November 5th. That weekend, the morning temperatures dropped a lot. And I knew that's when they were going to get up and start moving around looking for food. The boys were probably going to start getting excited. And it had been 2 weeks since he's been on camera. So I knew whatever doe he had pinned down, if he hadn't got shot, he was going to start looking for that new one. And so that first morning when it cooled off was November 9th. Like I said, 2.5 hour drive. And the night before, he came back an hour after dark. I was like, thank God he didn't get shot. He looked a little bit skinnier from the last time I seen him, because he's just held that doe down somewhere. I was like, all right, it's go time. He's going to show up eventually. And so I planned on staying down there overnight, because that place is so far away, and I wanted to get in that stand super early. Otherwise, I would have to leave my house at like 2 a.m. So that next day, he shows up again in the morning, an hour before dark. I was like, okay. And I've never really been one to like base my hunts off of the solar lunar tables. But I do watch them just so I can kind of see the activity of everything. And so watching him come in and then watching the solar lunar tables, I kind of figured out he's coming in an hour later than the major times on those solar lunar charts.
Hmm.
And so the next day, that solar lunar, every day it changes 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew if he's coming in an hour after, I kind of figured, okay, so this next day he's going to show up right at about shooting light. So I drive all the way down there. I sleep in the back seat of my truck. I had 6 blankets in there. I was freezing. And I wake up, I layer up, I get in the tree stand an hour, it's a little over an hour before not even shooting light, just being able to see. Shooting light was 6 o'clock. And as soon as you can see, it got super quiet. It was really cold. And I just kind of had that feeling like, okay, it's going to be a really good morning. And 6 o'clock rolls around. And this buck, when he comes in the morning, he comes from the north. He either pushes or check for does through past our camera and our stand. Then he goes and does whatever he does in the south. And then at the nighttime, he comes back from the south to the north. So I knew right away, I heard footsteps right at 6 o'clock. And it's where we have this tree stand. I mean, we have 20 yards to the north, 20 yards to the south, and maybe 10 yards straight east of us. Like, it is not a very shootable place. And as soon as I heard those footsteps from the north, I was like, this is him. And I'm just sitting there listening, and the body shakes started coming, and it was super cold. And I'm just starting to watch to my north, and I hear twigs breaking. I'm like, okay, well, I know it's a buck. And I look, and he was the first deer to come out that morning, and I played it perfect. He's 45 minutes late past the solar lunar. He's right at shooting light. And so he comes in, and there's a huge grass patch through here, and he walks in, he starts eating this grass right here. So I reach over, I grab my bow, I move my camera over, I press record, everything's working out. And it was cold. It was like 12 degrees this morning. It's just a little cold front.
Oh, wow.
And where he's standing, I had a cedar come up, and it V'd out just like this. And all I could see is my shooting lane. I was like, this can't be more perfect. Like, this is way too good to be true right now. Like, it doesn't happen this easy.
Yeah.
And it's only my second sit. And so I'm like, maybe it is this easy. And so I pull over and I go to draw. And when I draw back, I don't know if my bow got so cold or if I had a bunch of dust in there from all the hunting I've done this year. But as soon as my bow broke over, it made a really loud creaking sound. And I was like, oh crap. And he flipped a complete 360. And at that time, I heard another buck coming in, because you can tell when they're bucks walking through those leaves. And there's another buck coming in, and that kind of saved me for a second. And so he's slightly quartered to, but he's almost directly underneath my tree stand. And so I'm sitting there, and I have my pin on him, and I'm just like, I really don't like this shot. So I decided to just stay there in full draw and wait for him to turn back and do what he was doing. Well, he did,
Mm-hmm.
except when he turned, and when he did, he kind of caught me in his peripheral vision, and he's like, that's usually not there.
That's not right. Yeah.
Now we're having a staring contest, and I'm like, okay. And there's that part on that deer's neck where it swoops down and it hits that front part of their shoulder, and there's that little crease right there in that soft spot. And I just pulled back, or I was already pulled back, but what I did is I settled my pin on him, and I aimed right where that crease, right where his neck meets his shoulder, and I just squeezed it off. And I mean, it buried right there in him. And he took off. And when he took off, I could see, I shoot light and knots, and you can see him run off. And there's like maybe that much of my arrow sticking out. I'm like, okay, good. I got plenty of penetration, because my only downfall thought was either hitting him square in the shoulder, which I'm pulling enough weight, even on a whitetail, I was pretty confident I was going to bust through enough to kill him, or I'm going to hit him straight in the chest and it's going to be too low. But it was just one of those moments where he's staring at you, he's starting to stomp, and it's like, okay, I got to do this now. And so I pinned it on him, squeezed my shot off, and it buried in him. And I sat up there I called my dad first. I always call my dad after every time I shoot something. That's the first person I call is my dad. I'm always excited to, tell him I shot something or tell him I killed something, because we grew up hunting together. And now that I'm hunting on my own, me as his son, it's like an accomplishment for me. Like, okay, I got to tell dad, like, I just killed something. And then for him being a dad, I know he loves it just because I was his hunting buddy and now I'm out there on my own doing stuff. I texted him first because he was supposed to be hunting that morning also. He's hunting an absolute giant right now on another one of our places down on the Arkansas. But right when I shot him, I picked up my phone to text him, and he had texted me. He said, "Any luck yet?" I was like, "Oh." So I texted him. I just put in all caps. I said, "Cyclone's down." And I was like, well, and I texted him again. I said, "Hopefully." And then he actually ended up calling me because I thought he was at the tree stand. So we talked, and but what I did is I waited there for about 30 minutes, went to the truck, layered down, and then came back. And I wanted to look at my footage to see, specifically where, because when everything's happening all at once, it's that whole thing happened. Then I shot him in a place I didn't want to, but it worked out. And I wanted to look at the footage. And somewhere, well, actually, I'll tell you where it was. Right before I shot, my camera quit recording.
Oh no.
I'm going to assume it's because it was just the cold temperatures. Because I had a video of him sitting there, and then he spun around, and then it just stopped. And so I couldn't look at the footage. And so I pretty much gave him 2 hours. And my dad's like, "All right, well, I'm going to grab mom and we're going to come help you." I was like, okay. So I waited 2 hours and I started blood trailing him, and I found blood right away about 12 yards from where I shot him. And then he kind of got out into the sand and out in the prairie, and blood starting to get thin. I'm like, oh no. Now is when I really wanted my camera to work so I could see where I actually hit him. I was like, well, the blood that I did see was bright red. There's a few bubbles on it. And you'll get to see that in YouTube video. But blood just 100% ran out. And I only got maybe 15 yards of it. I was like, okay, well, now it's really time to start acting like a Native American. So I was like, well, that's definitely his track right there. It's a big mature buck track. His hooves were split because he was running off. And so I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that was him. And so when I was in the tree stand, I heard him run off, and then it sounded like he kind of came back a little bit, and then it was just silent. So I assumed he crashed. And so I started following his tracks through the sand and through the prairie. And, it's good enough that it froze that morning, but it was still kind of in that river area. So it was sandy. I followed his tracks maybe 20 yards from where that last blood was, and he was piled up right there in a huge, like a 10 by 10 square bed of cactus. And
Oh no.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. But I was just so relieved that I found him, because I thought, blood ran out that quick. Maybe I did square him up in the shoulder or something. But
Yeah.
that sound I heard of him coming back was him slowing down, and he was actually dying. And what he did is he just kind of like stuttered around in a circle, and then he ended up crashing. But when I found him, I was so relieved, and I walked up to him and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a giant. He's got a giant body. He had some extras coming off the base of his horns under his eye guards that I couldn't see. And where I hit him was actually perfect of where I wanted, because people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, he hit him so high and back. And it's like, I didn't, because he was directly underneath my stand. And what I did is I hit him right where his neck meets his shoulders like I wanted to, but I hit him on top. So what it did is it cut both his lungs in half, it clipped his heart, and then that arrow actually came out in front of his opposite flank but underneath him. And you'll get to see
Oh,
that in
okay.
the video too. Well, actually, I don't think I put that in the video. I put that on my Instagram. I pulled that arrow out of him right in front of his flank, and I mean, it just he wasn't going anywhere. But the reason I wasn't finding blood is because that broadhead didn't come completely out underneath him, and that hole was so high on top of him, it was just taking a while for that blood to come down, and it was super thin.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows people, like, if you think you squared one up and the blood gets thin, don't lose hope. Follow their tracks if you can, or just do whatever you can. Because I went another maybe 15, 20 yards, and he was piled up dead. And
Yeah, man.
I was just so relieved, and it was just like, wow, 5 or 6 year ordeal watching Cyclone, and that was it in 2 sits. And then my mom and dad showed up, and it was just a lot of fun. Dad gets emotional every single time, and just goes back to the dad thing, though. I mean, I'm sure every time something like that happens, all he can sit there and think of is when I was a little 6, 7 year old sitting in a tree stand wanting to shoot something with him, and now I'm 27 years old, I'm shooting stuff on my own, and it's just one of those things.
You're just
But
having at it, man. Yeah,
yeah,
that's so cool. It's really cool. You got, I mean, even a dad that's willing to load, well, dad and mom both, but loading up mom or loading them up to go 2 hours to go help you too, which is even more
right.
incredible. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
No,
That's so cool. But they
it
want to
was
be just
fun.
a part of it just as much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, that's kind of the other odd thing. I don't think about it much, but I remember um, it's cool hearing you describe how big that deer was because my second deer with a bow, um, it was in a tree stand, very first light up, very similar stuff. I see a doe out of my peripheral. I look over. There's a deer with its head down behind the brush behind her. I assume it's a buck, so I get my stuff ready. He lifts his head up. I can tell he's big. I don't know what he is. Total opportunist again. I mean, there's a buck. I'm
Right.
in the stand. Let's go. Second deer ever. And I shoot him and whack him. I thought I missed because the sound was so loud when I hit him.
Mhm.
And there was a tree as his backdrop, like this giant walnut tree. So I assumed I missed. Anyway, long story short, best morning of deer hunting I've still ever had to this day in the whitetail woods. Like just peak rut. Bucks were all over the place. I shot at a doe, shot at two different does and missed. So I actually ran out of arrows. I had 3 arrows with me. And anyway, I end up getting down out of the stand and I go over and I'm like, well, I grabbed the first or the second 2 arrows I'd shot that I'd missed these does on. I go over to this tree expecting to find my arrow sticking in it, and I can't find my arrow. And I'm like, that's weird. Maybe I hit low, whatever. I'm looking all over. And I stand up from like being bent over in this brush looking. I turn around and there's this 8 point that's all busted up. And he's
Mhm.
5 yards from me and he's rutted up like crazy. He's just staring at me. And I'm like, what do I do right now? So I ended up making like one quick move, but I like had my arrows in my hand because I like didn't know. And he kind of like trotted off, and they were so rutted up he didn't even care. He was just like, what is this thing doing here? But that first doe that came through must have been a super hot one. Just had all the bucks cruising looking for her. Well, then
Yeah.
I get back up in the stand 'cause I'm like, it's too good of a day. I don't know what happened with that buck. I can't find my arrow. And long story short, I see a giant deer, just big body, walking down the trail. This is 4 hours later.
Mhm.
Coming to me, it drops off the trail in this creek bottom that I can't see, but I'm expecting it to pop up. So I'm getting ready. It never pops up. So wait another hour or so, get down, movement kind of stopped. But anyway, I get over there, and that buck that I'd seen coming back on the trail was the buck I'd shot like 4 hours ago. So rutted up, that arrow just made it in to get one lung, like just far enough. And it was broke off, and there I had like the bright green tiger stripe Ted Nugent arrows.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, the body size on that thing, man, it took me, my dad, and his buddy. It was well over 300 pounds, probably similar to what you had. And
Yeah.
immediately I was like, I got to get this thing mounted. And so
Yeah.
I had him, in my mom's freezer. She runs an in-home daycare, has since I was little. And so one day she finally goes, Aaron, I don't care where you take it, but they just opened a taxidermy shop uptown. Get that thing out of my freezer and I'll pay your deposit. I'm like, let's go. So I
Yeah.
take it up there and the guy measures the neck, and I can't remember what it measured. I had that same thing on an old phone. I had pictures of him and stuff, but I could put my hunting boots, and he had at least 3 inches on either side of my boot that were just giant neck on this thing. And the taxidermist like he waited several days, like letting it thaw out, just kept trying to take new measurements because he just couldn't believe how big that neck was. But those old deer, like I bet he was probably similar. I don't know how to age deer, especially at that, young into hunting, but my guess would be looking at his rack and everything, like he was on that downhill slide, all mass.
Yeah.
But yeah, those big old deer, man, they get that, beyond 6, 7, 8 years old, and they just start putting some body size on if they're healthy,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And so that's one of the reasons on like when he popped up on camera this year, I told my dad, I'm like, he's for sure, high 160s, low 170s. And when I got him caped, and then my cousin Devin, who does all of my taxidermy stuff, he skull capped him. And when he skull capped him, he looked even bigger, and it's because we got him away from his body.
This episode is powered by Dead Nuts Outdoors, makers of the most lifelike, lightweight, and weatherproof 2D archery targets in the world. That's right, I said 2D. We're talking full-size animals that bring the hunt to your backyard. Whether you're dialing in before the season or just burning daylight with your bow, Dead Nuts Targets makes practicing fun, training on full-size animals to ensure every rep in the backyard converts to success on your trips to the field. Built to last, easy to haul, compatible with any backstop, and 100% made in the USA, Dead Nuts Outdoors is a proud supporter of our veterans, investing in conservation and rooted in building a better, more confident community of hunters every step of the way. They are proud supporters of the Prayin and Slayin Podcast Network, and you can get 10% off your Dead Nuts targets by using the code Prayin and Slayin at checkout. That's Prayin and Slayin at your checkout, or visiting the link in the show notes. Dead Nuts is helping us all hit the spot, not the dot. Hit it, Dead Nuts. Now, let's get back to the episode.
And it's just like those Canada deer. Like, you don't think those Canada whitetails are, their horns obviously are super massive, chocolate horns, just like what everyone wants to kill in Canada. But, they don't look that big because their bodies are so big. And then you measure them, they're like 180, 190. And so when we scored him and he came out to 177 and 2/8, I was like, oh my gosh. And that's my biggest whitetail with a bow by an inch. It was I shot a 176 on the river. That was back in 2019. When I shot that buck, I never thought I'd top it, and I did by an inch. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's people want to top what they shoot all the time. I'm like, well, I said, whether it's an inch, 2 inches, or 20 inches, or even if it's smaller, I was like, it's, to me, trophy hunting, like I said, if you have the opportunity to trophy hunt, obviously do it. Age your deer. Typically it's when you have your own property. But what I just had this exact conversation with my buddy Matt Mason the other day, who he owns Arkansas Valley Archery. He helps me get my bow set up, and he's a good friend. He's got a place in Kansas that he hunts, and he wants to shoot big deer because Kansas is big deer for whitetail. And he's trying his best to age class deer, and he's doing a good job. He shot some 4 and 5 year old deer the last couple of years, and now he's wanting to age class some more. And I was like, that's good, man. Like, if you got that place leased out, try and grow them as big as you want to. And he is. And but I told him, I said, it's, you always get flack from someone who doesn't know about it, or someone who just wants to give you flack because they're jealous. That's all it is jealousy. But it's like, I try telling people all the time, if you have that property and you can age class deer, do it. I said, or if you have that property and you don't want to age class deer, I said, then don't. But you can't get mad when you don't shoot big things, because there's a lot of work that comes into it. But the thing I like to tell people the most, especially when it comes to, whether it's public land hunting, even a guided hunt, or just hunting your own private land, if your heart gets to racing and you would be happy shooting something, shoot it. Do not let it go. And like me, even on our places in Oklahoma or here in Colorado, like, I will for sure age class deer as the best as I can, or my dad. But even we get guilty sometimes, our heart gets racing, and 4-year-old with a big rack comes by and we end up shooting him, just because, you might be a little disappointed yourself in the end, because like, oh man, he's only a 4-year-old. But at the same time, you got to look at it like, your heart wasn't thumping for nothing. Like, people got to sometimes set the cameras aside, set the social media aside, set, oh, he's a 8-year-old deer, or he's a 180-inch deer. Like, you have to set all that aside and remember why we're hunting. We're hunting because of the memory. We're hunting because of the excitement, the adrenaline rush, something we could tell our kids or calling your dad, it's sometimes you just got to shoot what your heart tells you to shoot. 2 years ago, I shot a bull. I've shot mule deer bigger than this bull elk. And the reason I killed him is because actually 5 minutes before I shot him, I passed up a bull bigger than him. And the reason I shot him is because I'm sitting there, I'm packed in 4.5 miles in the mountains. I'm sitting on a hillside, public land, no one's around me. And this bull comes screaming his head off up this mountain, comes right to me 30 yards. We have a staring match, sits there bugling again. My heart is coming out of my chest. And right before I shot him, I'm like, this is why we bow hunt. I said, he's not a 340, 350 bull. This is super cool. It's 7 a.m. I'm 4.5 miles in. My heart's racing. I'm going to kill him. And he walks out from the side of this tree, and I plugged him, and I called my dad, and I was like, bring the horses. He goes, you kill a big one? I was like, sure. And he brings the horses, and he's like, Colton, what the heck? I said, I couldn't do it. I said, my heart was racing. He was bugling. It was beautiful. I said, that's all I needed. And so I try and tell people, like, a lot of people see me shooting big stuff, or sometimes they don't see me shooting big stuff. But I try and tell everyone, if your heart's racing, you're having a lot of fun, and you would be happy killing him, don't worry about what people are going to say on social media, whether it's big or small, shoot it. And that's my philosophy with everything. If my heart gets racing, it's a mature buck on private land, then I'm going to shoot it. If my heart gets racing, it's not a mature buck and it's on our private land, we're probably not going to shoot it. But, that's just us. Everyone has their own opinions on things. Even on public land, if I ran into something that got my heart racing, I was shooting it. This year, my heart got racing 5 or 6 times, but I was like, you know what? I said, this is really cool. I'm just going to take in the moment. I'm going to video it. I'm going to take pictures. This is God's creation right in front of you. It's sometimes that's the other thing you got to do is just take it all in. And that's what I did, because I had one thing on my mind, and I kept telling myself 340 or nothing, 340 or nothing. And people are like, you're not going to find 340 bulls on public land. I'm like, yes, you will. You just got to be patient. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the miles, and it'll turn up. They didn't turn up this year, but maybe next year it will. And so.
Yeah, man, 100%. That's cool. And I think that's part of it too, is setting your, you got to fix your sights on whatever you're shooting at, and you got goals for yourself. You got to set your sights on it. And, that mental repetition of 340 or bust, like, okay, but that puts you in a whole different mindset when you do have that 320 sitting there, and you've seen probably your good fair share of those. So you kind of know what you're looking at too, which helps. But, right. At the end of the day, you just know, okay, this is where I'm at. And I've killed a lot of bulls, and I've got, like you said, you got meat in the freezer, whatever. And then, you got to write a little bit different rules depending on your scenario too. Like you said, if you have a lease or if you got private ground, and you just know, like, the pressure that's going to be there. There's a lot of factors that go into that too. You can afford to be patient in different scenarios more than the other things, but it all comes down at the end of the day to your goal. You can afford to be patient on public ground. You don't have to shoot the first thing that runs by you if you've got a goal in your head, or, it's crazy. And I think seeing a lot of reps of animals helps too, because then you have a little bit different expectation when you go out of like what you can see and what is possible. So then it makes the first opportunity that comes by, you might be like, I do know that I can do a little bit better here. And you do that quick mental algebra equation, weighing your own odds in your head. And if it comes out favorable, great, wait. If it's not, you want to go home with some meat in the freezer, tag them, you get it done or whatever, So that's super cool, man. So what are you chasing now in Oklahoma again?
So Oklahoma,
you said you're hunting, but you've got the guy, you're going to be guiding down there first, and then you're going to be doing your own hunting.
Yeah. So I leave tomorrow morning. We have hunters coming in, one elk hunter, 2 whitetail hunters. I'll be guiding them they come in, or I leave tomorrow, going to do a little bit of like a little half day scouting. I already know what's kind of out there. They come in Friday. I will guide them until Thursday, which is, if I'm not wrong, I'm looking at my calendar right behind you. Thanksgiving's Thursday. Actually, no, so they'll leave Wednesday, the 26th. And then we always go down there for Thanksgiving as a family and have dinner, and then whoever wants to hunt hunts, and that'll be it. But I'll be down there from Thanksgiving throughout the rest of that week. I'll be there a little over 7 days just hunting myself, and it'll be mule deer and elk.
Very cool.
Whether I shoot both or shoot one, it's or none. Like I said, I just like going down there. I grew up at that place. I could remember almost every single year since we started going there. It's just a fun place to be at. So I'm super excited.
100%, man. Then you have those nostalgia spots. That's tough to beat too, man. You just walking into the same woods, especially if you've been separated from it from a bit. It's just like, oh man, like it brings back all the feels. That's awesome. Well, cool, man. So I don't think we ever talked about this. You do guiding, so I'm assuming this is professional guiding. And then what else do you do? Like, what's your main job or hustle you got going on?
So my main line of work, I'll say, is construction. I've been working construction since I was 18 years old. I went to school for it. I got a degree in construction management. I was working for a company here in Colorado Springs as a project engineer, assistant project manager. But unfortunately, they just got bought out by a bigger company. I was their newest hire, so I got let go. So as far as full-time work right now, I don't have one. But I'm not letting it get me down. I'm collecting what I can through Colorado, just taking what they want to give me, and then I'm actually taking this time to get a lot of my videos put out and stay caught up on my social media, get my YouTube stuff going, because eventually hunting's always been my passion. I'm starting to get to the point to where I can okay, I'm one step closer to making this a profession. I got put on the pro shooters list this year for elite archery. Darren Christenberry, Blake Kidder, they're super nice guys. They've been really good to me. I've picked up a lot of my sponsors through them. I have a few other field staff deals through just other companies I use while I hunt. And so it's really looking up to me. I'm super fortunate for it. So I'm just going to take this time while I don't have a full-time job and, work on the side for whoever needs some extra help or whatever. And just keep plugging away till I either get a full-time job again, or maybe this will take off and I could live my dream and just travel around and hunt and making content and shooting 3D shoots and just have fun with it.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, you hit it on the head. The I can feel your sense of relief a little bit. And like all of a sudden, you guys, I'm sure if you video hunts like you do, obviously, like anybody that does, the hardest part isn't the hardest part's kind of getting that first animal on film and doing it all right, and then getting a better and better video. But once you got it, then it's like the problem becomes you just film everything, and then you have this pile of stuff that you never have time to get to. It's like I've got folders of videos that I hope to get out sometime, but finding time to edit, dude, that's insane. So yeah, or that or resort to finding an editing service that does it for you. But even then, if you got your own artistic spin or whatever you've got going on and you've got the vision, it's kind of hard to pass that stuff off and hope it turns out the way you want it to. Yeah. As far as filming hunts goes, how have you filmed all your hunts since you've kind of gotten into it, or what's your film setup and what got you into the filming aspect?
So a few years ago, more than a few years, it was like 4 years ago. I do a lot of hunting. I've traveled to a lot of cool places, and my biggest pet peeve is I do all of these things in all this beautiful country, and I'm taking pictures on a phone, which phones nowadays are just as good as cameras. But I wanted better pictures and better videos, and not necessarily of me killing something, but just in general. I've been to Alaska twice. I've killed 2 extremely nice caribou, and I got some good pictures on my phone, and I got good pictures with my dad in them as well. But it's I have the stuff I have now, and it's I really wish I would have had that with me when I was down there. But what really got me into it is Micah Morgan. That's Levi Morgan's brother. He's who does all the filming and pictures and editing for Levi. That kid, I shouldn't say kid, he's older than me. That guy, he puts out some amazing content, and I really look up to him because he's cinematic. Like there's hunting shows have been around since way before I was born, but he's putting it into a modern perspective to where it's like it's eye-catching, almost to where non-hunters are watching this stuff. They watch it and it's like, oh my gosh, this is super cool.
Yeah.
But I started watching his stuff. I was like, that is, bad cuss word. It's it's just like I really want to do that. And so obviously my work's not as good as Micah's. It may not ever be. Micah Morgan's Micah Morgan. Like everything that, whether it's his work or someone else that's trying to make it look like his work, it won't look like that because Micah Morgan's the one that started doing it. And but that's what really got me going on. I kind of want to get some stuff and start doing a little bit better with it. And so it started off as, better pictures for wherever I went, whether I killed something or not. And then it kind of led to videos. I did some videos for myself or with my buddies when we went hunting. I filmed my cousin's mountain lion archery hunt, which was absolute chaos. He just told me the other day too, he goes, dude, that memory came of that lion hunt. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what went on. I missed the shot on my camera. All of a sudden, a lion's jumping out of a tree. The guy's yelling at his dogs. Rifles are going off. We're slipping down mountains. I was limping at the end. He lost his hat. We all fell. It was chaos. And but as far as my filming stuff comes, that came from Micah Morgan. He really inspired me to do it, and I've gotten a lot better since then, obviously. But it kind of led me into a side gig. I started filming some weddings. People really like my work, and what I was really starting to notice is like you said, like having a vision for it. I Before I do something, I already know how I want it to look. Like even whether it's weddings or filming in the woods, like, okay, I'm going to Oklahoma to film mule deer. That's kind of like plains / there's some canyons with some cedars. I know what I'm going to want to do with my drone. I know how I want to film things, and everything I do is self-film. So as far as getting an animal shot by me is, I want to say like 35% going to happen. But I know how I can make this video watchable without getting to see that animal get shot. Because the main reason people watch a lot of these videos is to see stuff get shot. But you'll hear me say in my video, which dropped 34 minutes ago, the animals come first. I will always put animals first. If there's an opportunity where I have a perfect shot at an animal, but I can't get it on film, I'm going to take that perfect shot at the animal. I'm not going to ruin something to where, I want to get it on film and then I'm taking a bad shot and now I wounded the animal, or I don't find it and the coyotes eat it. I will always say that, like, if I'm going to do this filming thing, I'm going to do it. I hope everyone enjoys it. But at the same time, I'm not going to, shooting these animals. I mean, that's the other thing is, they don't know we're hunting them. They think they're out there protecting themselves from the predators that are also animals. And then all of a sudden humans come into play, so it's, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure that, it's fair to them as well. I'm not going to mess something up just trying to get it on film.
Yeah.
And so I do the weddings on the side, and then I really want to start getting this YouTube hunting going for me. Bow builds. I just did a bow build video with Matt. I got to get that put together still, but I really just want to start filming everywhere I go, just because it's everywhere I go is so beautiful. I want everyone to see it and kind of just let them know, like, hey, it's not always about getting to see something killed. It's pay attention a little bit and look how beautiful that sunset is, or the sunrise, or how beautiful the aspens are in beginning of fall. And it's little stuff like that I really just want people to start seeing, and it can help me out in the career I want to pursue too as a professional archer, is just bringing that stuff in there, which brings eyes back to my table, different bow companies or rests, arrows, broadheads, whatever it is. It just brings notice, but at the same time, people get to see, a lot of people get to see some stuff they may never get to see. That's the main point.
Yeah, man. No, I absolutely love that. And there's like in my mind too, like you mentioned the aspen leaves, and that's the one thing that I've noticed when I film. I got into filming, kind of the same thing, man. It's like I'm kind of the only person in my family that does it, and I can come home and tell the story. But like, they usually seem like they're kind of halfway interested in the story. But if I could show them what happened, maybe they'd be more into it. So that's kind of like
Right.
originally where I got into the whole idea of filming, and then with that, and then social media picks up, and you see these, like Michael Waddell's and stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, they get to go hunting
Yeah.
for a living, and they're on a TV show, so that becomes the dream. And then you work in the outdoor industry, and you get to see like the back end business side of it, and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to have my own YouTube channel.
Right.
But there's a lot to it, man. And the beauty of it is what comes is really kind of what kept me going with it. I got one video. Um, I don't think it's out. I've got to put it together, but I saved clips of it on my phone because everything about that hunt, it was the lighting, it was the river and the water and the reflections. It was fall, and like in
Mhm.
this part of Montana, it's a river bottom. I was trying to fill some whitetail doe tags on this block management unit, and the way the wind was blowing that day and just the right time of year, like all these yellow leaves. It was like snowing, but yellow leaves the whole time, and it was just like the most serene hunt I think I've ever been on. But the cameras like that day caught a lot of those scenes, and I just love looking back at them because it's like, YouTube now, like they're like, enjoy the serenity or whatever, like while they're waiting
Right.
for an advertisement to go. It's like this is one of
Yeah.
those times, like I can literally look at it and zone out, and my head goes right there. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's so much other pieces of that element to come. But I also love that you said, for you as the videographer, like the hunt comes first.
Mhm.
Or that's the words that popped in my head. I had Kendrick Chiddock from the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance on one of our Operation Conservation episodes. And he's a photographer, so he'll go along with hunters. You can book him, and he'll professionally photograph your entire endeavor, and you can put it in photo books and all kinds of cool stuff. But it was interesting for me as a guy who likes to film, and him being a guy that's about the snapshots, the individual snapshots and storytelling that way. But that was his words. He goes, the cool thing about him being a photographer is the hunt always comes first, and he gets to
Yep.
sit back in the backdrop and just kind of be that guy. But he's not going to not let that guy shoot or make it happen because it doesn't ruin the story. It kind
Right.
of adds to it, it adds an element to it. And the way he described it was really cool. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I'm not going to if I have an opportunity and I get to the point where it's like, it's game time and I'm going to take that animal or I want to, camera or not, man. It's like, I hope it's running or I hope it's on it, but I'm going to do
Yeah.
it. And then I can pick up right where it left off. And I'm excited to watch your whitetail story because it turns out it's one of those, like the shot didn't
Yeah.
really happen that way in that moment, but kind of goes along with all the reasons you've said what you enjoy about hunting. What so many of us do is like everything up to that, but that's just one tiny piece of it all,
Yeah.
right? And but like you said, a lot of videos, especially in the outdoors industry side of things, and hunting TV and stuff, like it is, if they don't get that shot on, hey man, no episode. Like it's like they toss it all out the window. But it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of a small piece of it, and you can story tell just as well with everything that led up to it and everything that happened after it.
Yeah.
So that's super cool, man. No, I'm excited to watch that video. So I'm probably gonna tune into it as soon as we wrap the podcast stuff
Yeah.
here for sure. So you're gonna have view number one if it hasn't been viewed a bunch already.
Yeah.
Um, so you like building bows? I guess give me what's your favorite piece or most essential piece of hunting gear? I guess it could be your bow, it can be whatever. What don't you leave the house without?
Um, honestly, I don't leave without my inReach. That thing
Okay.
is a lifesaver. Obviously, everyone's seen what happened with those two kids that came elk hunting in Colorado that, unfortunately passed away. Um, they had their inReach, and they were obviously allowed or able to get a lot of details out of their whereabouts because of that inReach, but it died. Maybe it wasn't fully charged or they didn't charge it overnight, as nights went on. But I keep my inReach with me everywhere I go, even if I have service, because when you're hunting, anything can happen at any given time, and you may not have your phone with you or it falls out of your pocket and you can't find it, but it's not very likely to happen. But let's say I'm crawling under some bluffs in Oklahoma, stalking mule deer, and all of a sudden a mountain lion jumps on me, clenches on the back of my neck, and I get him off and I shoot him with my pistol while I'm laying there with a broken neck. My inReach is constantly clipped to my backpack All I have to do is turn it on, hit the SOS button. I fortunately haven't had to do that yet, so I don't know how long it takes, SOS to respond, but it's going to be a lifesaver. I'm sure it saved people before, and it's definitely something I do not leave the house without, fully charged, and I do bring battery packs with me so I can recharge. It's insurance for my parents to know that I'm alive, and then everyone knows when you send a text message, it shows where you're at. It's good to have, even if you know where you're going, you don't use your mapping or whatever. It even shows weather on there. It'll have a solar lunar forecast, but the main reason I have it is for emergencies. If I snap my leg, break an arm, I can't walk because I'm freaking out, or like I said, mountain lion, rattlesnake, anything, I want that SOS with me because it could dang sure save your life.
Yeah, man, absolutely. That's a good answer too. And yeah, I know a few stories of guys breaking ankles and things, and that's what got them out of there, because they wouldn't have been able to make it as far in as they were or whatever. And yeah, that's cool. I've definitely got to get one. I never did. I hemmed and hawed on it forever in Montana, but most of the spots, the thing that always went through my head is like, I've got signal on most of my spots that I go. And I got in the habit too of Onyx dropping pins where the truck was going to be. I'd always, whenever I had made sure I had service, I'd just drop pins kind of where I was periodically. And that's good. And I'd, text them on my wife or whatever. But like at the end of the day, that GPS, I mean, you can't really beat that when it can pinpoint exactly where you are, and you can call for help at the touch of a button. Because yeah, like you said, we're playing a dangerous game at the end of the day, being out there, and a bajillion things could happen. And even guys that probably feel extremely safe growing up, I hunted the same tree stand when my first probably 5, 6, 7 years of hunting. I hunted the same tree stand, same spot, parked the vehicle in the same spot on a piece of private property. But how many times a year does a rung on the ladder break of a tree stand and a guy falls out and busts something, he can't move, or and has to lay out there till someone decides to go looking. So yeah, there's never a reason not to leave the house without that kind of insurance on you. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your so you've killed some giant whitetail. Sounds like you've killed a lot of things. What's your favorite animal to chase if you had to pick one?
Definitely elk. September screaming bulls. It'll just be something that never gets old. Whether I have friends with me or whatever, if I'm in an area where I know there's elk and it's 2 hours past dark, sorry guys, got to pull over and bugle to see if something will answer me. It's even if it's off the side of the highway. I love listening to bulls scream, big herds of cows and calves meowing through the timber. That'll be something that never gets old. The pack outs suck. I don't always have my horses with me or my buddies with me, but in the end, it's worth it. It's one of these days we're not going to be able to hear stuff bugle anymore, and that's definitely, even if I go just to hear them, it's just that sound. It's something that sends. It's one of those things like what we talked about in the beginning. It's unexplainable. Like I took I try and self film as much as I can, but I had my buddy Billy come with me on a day trip I did in the Elkwoods this year, and he got to hear that for the first time, and he's like, "Dude, that is insane!" And they're right there in our face. I mean, just young satellite bulls. They don't know what's going on. They just want to be a part of the action, and it's unexplainable. But that's by far. I love Western hunting. I love spot and stalk, and I love rutting elk, and all of that comes into play in one deal.
Yeah, man, for sure. And it's an action filled game, when you play it too. And
Right.
and it's kind of like turkey hunting. I liken it a little bit to be the same. It's like, it's one thing to kind of watch it on TV and guys talk about it a lot. Like, oh, man, it fills your bones and makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. The first time you hear it in the wild, like, no question, it's like, oh my God, that was the coolest thing I've ever heard. Turkey gobbling, the elk bugle, same thing in Montana. The first time, I think I was we were driving around exploring on a random day, weren't even hunting, but same thing, just pulled the car over, got quiet, and heard one rip, and I was like, no way, that's cool, man. Definitely something you don't forget either. It's like it's just locked in your brain at that point.
I like to say it's prehistoric because it's insane that the sound and the vocals and how far that stuff travels. I remember back to being 6 years old, walking in 2 hours before daylight with my dad holding his hand because I was so scared. But being that early and being that young and hearing them, man, it literally, to me, it sounded like dinosaurs talking to each other. It was insane. It was cool.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It is. It's gnarly, man. It's great. And
Yeah.
then on that Texas ranch, the red stags they've got out there and the red hinds that they've got. Um, just over the bluff from where we were hunting, they were ripping off down there. That's a wild sound too. I mean, it's a non-native here in Texas, but either way, just hear the same concept. You're like, just it's a dinosaur out there roaring around
Yeah.
and doing its thing, and it's just the wildest thing. That's so
Right.
cool, man. And then, what's the best piece of advice you could give anybody that's hunting that you had to learn the hard way?
Ooh. Um, Definitely when people say play your wind. Like
Yeah.
these animals, they are not stupid. They were born in the wild. They're wild animals for a reason. They survive as long as they do for a reason. They're not dumb. My what would have been my biggest mule deer ever. Now, I'm not bragging when I say this. It was pure luck. When I went to college for 1 year in Dodge City, Kansas, I ended up shooting a 216-inch mule deer on public land. Everyone in the state of Kansas hated me because out of state hunters do not hunt mule deer. But being as I went to college there, I was able to get an in state tag. And I mean, 216 inches is huge. And he's not even like, if you look at him, you're like, that's not a 216-inch deer, but he's so wide and he has mass from base to tip. And he had over 80 inches in mass alone. He had points going
Wow.
everywhere. I mean, he was back to a dinosaur. He was legit a dinosaur. He was old, big, and it was pure luck. I was stalking a whitetail and I turn around and all of a sudden it looked like a beef cow running across the prairie. And he went down into the only dried out sunflower pond in Dodge City, Kansas, and I just got lucky and got around him and shot him. But back to what would have been my biggest mule deer was a giant, giant, giant 6x6 mule deer. I sat there for maybe 6 hours, 40 yards from him, waiting for him to stand up, and he did. Wind was in my favor, and he just did one of those things where he stands up, turns straight away, and walks away. After 6 hours, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So he goes and beds down again right away. But the only way to stalk him is if I come in from the other way. But now the wind's in his favor. And waiting there as long as I did, as big as his horns are, I got a little impatient. And even hunting as long as I did, I knew better. Like I even told myself before I started, I'm like, Colton, you do not do this, but we're going to do it anyways and see how dumb this deer is. Well,
Right.
long story short, he didn't get that big for no reason. I got maybe 60 yards from him and he was out of there. I mean, he actually blew out of there so fast, I didn't see him again for the rest of the time I was hunting. Left, came back a week later. He stripped his velvet. A group of hunters from Nebraska came in. Great guys, by the way. I still talk to them to this day. They always comment on my pictures. They ended up shooting him underneath a little ridge. And I'm pretty sure he went like he was a typical 6x6 and pushed 220. And
Wow.
that one is one till this day I still kick myself for. Like if I would have just been patient and waited till the next day and found him again and played my win, maybe I would have shot him. I don't know. But instead I blew him out of the country. He came back a week later, but he had other people hunting him besides me and they did it right. And so there's
Yeah.
one thing to tell someone, whether you're an experienced hunter like me or getting used to it, play your wind and play it correctly. Always come in downwind. Do not go with the wind because it will not work.
No, and even slightly. I mean, the way wind swirls and plays over the terrain, even what you think might be kind of good or it might work. A lot of times that wind it can do some, and they can smell like the smallest little thing in that air. And like you said, they know it. They live it every single day. They know when that one little tiny weird whiff comes by. They're like, wait a minute, that's off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's incredible. And whitetails too. Like that buck, you said it. Like he went off to a spot and he bedded. Like he may very well have bedded based off that wind shift of like, okay,
right.
I've had enough time here, and I know I can play the wind on his favor. going to that bedding area where he went and bedded back down. I know whitetails, like I've seen a lot of stuff now, like guys are doing it with drones, like watching these deer and like, they'll be bedded on a bluff and just every little slight, man, they kind of document it with the wind changes for the day and every little just slight variation. They get up and move 5 feet this way and bed this direction, or they just spin around 180 degrees and look that way. Like, but they're always playing that wind 24/7 because it's their lifeline. It's how they find the hot does. It's every little thing for them. If they can't see it, they want to smell it. Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
wild.
No, they're, like I said, they're not dumb. That buck didn't get 220 inches for nothing. It's just like both those big bulls that I had opportunities at in Oklahoma this year. There's one on my social media you guys can watch where I actually come to full draw on him. But what people don't know is 30 seconds before that, I was 20 yards away from him and he was bedded down. I was getting ready to shoot him, but the closer I got to these cliffs where he was bedded under, the wind was blowing 100 miles an hour that day. But the closer I got to those cliffs, the more that wind started swirling, just like you said, because where I was, it's blowing one direction. But the closer I got to him, that wind's coming up and down and around and going everywhere. And I eventually got just close enough to him. He winded me. And I had a shot at 65 yards, but I didn't take it just because he was on edge. I'm glad I didn't because he ended up boogieing out of there. And then a week later, that 350 bull, I was set up on him 80 yards away. All he had to do was stand up. It was about a 4-hour sit, dead, no wind at all. But being in that higher country in Oklahoma, the afternoon winds came. As soon as I felt it hit the back of my head, he was out of there in seconds. And it's like, you just got to think, like, they don't get 350 for nothing. They are not stupid. So yep. Wind is a huge factor, whether you're archery hunting or rifle hunting, it don't matter. They're going to smell you.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's crazy. And it's, especially you talk wide open Western hunting, or really anywhere where that wind can move, it moves over terrain and every hill it rolls over or every bend it goes around, it does a little bit something different. So there's so much that goes into it. And long range shooting with rifles, you think about it a little bit, but that was the best explanation I ever got was from a long range shooting instructor and talking about how, like, basically imagine if you had a giant bucket and you poured water over the top of this landscape, what would it do? Because that's exactly how that wind is going to roll through there. And then I've seen it before, long range shooting, even at like 500 yards. If you've got a 15-mile-an-hour breeze blowing against your cheek, right to left at the shooting position, but you could hit to the right or whatever down range just because the wind's going to come off here. It's bouncing off this tree line and it's actually wrapping around the berm. So it's driving a hard wind, the opposite direction. So it's wild, what wind can do. And then, like I said, animals know exactly how to use it to their favor. That's how they live and get big. Yeah. But, well, very cool, man. Well, I know you've got a hunt you're packing for. You got two. Are you bringing both? You got two bows back there. Are you bringing them both or just one?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can. Yeah. So this is Elite's Exalt 35. That's what I hunted with all year, pretty much. It's 100% set up, ready to go. So I'm taking it with me. This one behind me is their new 2026 flagship bow. It's the Elite Baros or Baros. I still don't know how to pronounce it. It's sad because I should, because they give them to me. But I have it completely set up, tuned. The only thing I'm waiting on, their quivers were back ordered, which as I was on the phone with you, I heard UPS show up. So my quiver's here. I just got to get some arrows cut and fletched and then get it sighted in and it'll be ready to shoot. So I'm taking both of them with me. I'm probably going to keep hunting with my 35 and then just get that set up. If it gets set up in time, I'll use it. If not, I'm not worried about it. I got tags throughout the year. So, but
heck yeah, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, very cool, man. Well, and the one thing I like everybody to leave it with, if you got it, just piece of encouragement, something good, whatever you got, man. What's the world need to hear a little bit more of from Colton?
Don't quit. There's a lot of times where I feel like the stuff I'm doing right now just isn't working. Like, you got obviously a lot of people trying to do the exact same thing I'm doing. Sometimes people do it better, sometimes they don't. But whether it's hunting, full-time work, sports, literally whatever it is, just don't quit, stick to it, because God's got a plan for everyone. And if it works out in the end, it does. If not, then maybe you find something else you're passionate about. And then if you start that, then don't quit with that either. But that's my main thing. I've always told everyone is, don't quit, don't give up. Just keep going.
Keep going, man. One more step, one more mile, one more early wake up. Just one more. There's a guy that Brad Whitnabell, you might know the name, familiar from the Dead Nuts field ops crew there, but he told me something a long time ago. You could just be you're one. He always said, just stay this side of annoying. And he was specifically talking about like sales or whatever, but like same thing.
Right.
You're always one door knock away. You're always one piece of step away. But no, I love it, man. Don't quit. You're exactly right. Everybody's success or unsuccess typically comes down to the culmination of a bunch of little tiny steps done over and over and over and over and over again. And the day you quit is the only time that your success may stop, or your whatever you're chasing might be just out of reach, but you're always one step away from everything. So I love that.
No, I
Awesome.
Tell everyone the only thing stopping you is you. And just to kind of put in perspective on the don't quit thing is, I do some rodeoing and jackpots on the side for team roping. And I don't know how many times my mom's told me this, but I don't know how much you know about team roping, but in jackpots, just to give you a quick explanation, you have one partner, obviously, and then you have to rope all 4 steers clean, or, if you catch a leg, it's a 5-second penalty. If you break a barrier, it's 5-second penalty. But pretty much if you can catch 4 steers, that's your chance of winning some money. And I don't know how many times where I've had 3 or 4 partners in a jackpot and either I miss or they miss, and I get super frustrated. And my mom, she's always there watching. She tells me the same thing every single time. She goes, it only takes one partner. And I sit there and I think about it, I'm like, you're not wrong. And there's probably been more times than most where I would start with 5 or 6 partners, and it would come down to one partner, and I would end up winning money with him because we roped all 4 steers. And so you just don't quit, just stick to it, and it'll work out.
It'll work out, man. Yeah. Sometimes circumstances got to change a little bit. Doesn't mean you need to stop moving to let them change. It might change along your path, just like the team roping. Well, very cool, brother. Well, we'll let you get going and get packing for that hunt. We can't wait to hopefully hear some success stories from that too. Might have to have you on a back-to-back episode series if you end up smacking something down in Oklahoma.
That'd be super cool, for sure.
Heck yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us get to know you a little bit, man. And if you haven't yet, we'll link to all of Colton's social media stuff there, Final Ascent Media, the YouTube channel and everything. And I'm going to jump off here and watch the video, so everybody else should too, if they haven't already by that time. So
yeah.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, appreciate you having you on, brother. Look forward to seeing you smack something in Oklahoma, and can't wait to have you on again and share another story soon.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you as well.
So there you have it, guys. That was Colton Talton with Final Ascent Media. If you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to go check out the link in the show notes and check out Final Ascent Media. He's a great content creator. And man, what an awesome story. Who knew that Colorado had that kind of bucks running around? And I guess it takes guys like Colton that are dedicated and passionate to go find them, even though it was just a small tract of land. Most people think out west, the cool opportunity there that I love the most is just to go explore these gigantic pieces of land that were public, and it was just wild. And then these guys are out here on a few acres and smoking 177 2/8 inch giant whitetail that Colorado sounds like it might be a sleeper state that's putting up some bucks that would make Iowans and Illinois people jealous. So anyway, guys, I love what Colton left us with, and that was do not quit. And the verse that reminds me of is Galatians 6:9 that says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Life is a game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And anything that we get into that's worthwhile is absolutely going to test our limits. And part of getting our limits tested is knowing, when to throw in the towel and when not to throw in the towel, and practicing not throwing in the towel just because things get hard. I think there's a time and place for everything, and a time and place to walk away or to start or to finish something. But man, just having the ability to mentally tough out situations where other people might quit,
a lot of times is the line between when something gets amazing and great is on the other side of that hard line. So don't be the person that quits. Put in the time, put in the energy, and if it's worth it, keep chasing it. Get after it, just like Colton did with this awesome buck called Cyclone. With that, guys, I'm going to let you guys go do something awesome. Go shoot your bow at a Dead Nuts target. Be sure to use the link and code Prayin and Slayin to get 10% off and support our License to Kill mission. And as always, keep praying and slaying.